story time while we're grinding. Recently, my wife had a pretty significant surgery, a major surgery that we had to go out of town for, because we had to get it with a specialist, right? And because of the long recovery time, we had to stay out of town, so we got an Airbnb, because it's cheaper than a hotel. We had to be out of town for like 4 weeks, so we got an Airbnb. I made sure all the accommodations were the way they need to be because she was gonna have like weight limit, not going upstairs, all these various things, right? And because we were driving there, we needed to make sure there was parking available as well. Checked off all these things. We are in, we go into town, we leave town and go into town, the day before the surgery at the Airbnb. And we're in a pre-op appointment before checking into our Airbnb. And while we're in the appointment, I get a message from the host of the Airbnb. Oh, damn, I accidentally skipped that level up. It looked pretty good, though. Where the host said, hey, I just wanted to message you and let you know that the previous guests destroyed everything in the Airbnb. Absolutely destroyed it all. And, I know you're gonna do the same thing. I know you're gonna destroy everything in the Airbnb. You're gonna break everything. You're going to smash everything. Because the previous 2 people all did it. And I know you're gonna be just like them. You're gonna smash and destroy it all. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So I was like, we are not going to destroy things. We are not going to destroy things in the Airbnb. We're just trying to find a place to stay. So then, I'm already like, the sus meter is up that there's something weird going on with this Airbnb, but it's too late. Like, we're there the day of, rescheduling would be super expensive or whatever, but my sus meter is already up. We go to where the Airbnb is supposed to be, and there's no traffic. And I message this guy, and I'm like, hey, not no traffic, there's no parking. I message this guy, and I tell him, like, hey, there's no parking. Like, you said that there would be parking available. And he goes, well, you have to find your own parking. And I'm like, what do you mean I have to find my own parking? He's like, there is technically parking if you can find it. And I'm like, that's not what that means. When on the street listing it says, when on the listing it says parking is available, that does not mean you have to find parking. Additionally, every street within, like, because it was in a city, right? Every street within like 7 blocks had signs posted all over the place that said, no parking allowed here, only if you have a permit. Like, for residents only, you need a permit on your car or you'll get towed. So I'm like, okay, you've already, like, told us, you've already sent a really weird sus message about how you're gonna how I'm gonna smash up your apartment. And now there's no parking there. I need the parking. What else can go wrong? 10 minutes before check-in, he sends us a message and he goes, by the way, I'm changing the address. It was supposed to be this old address, but I've changed the address. You're going somewhere else instead. And I'm like, okay, this smells very much like a scam. My thought process is he has 2 apartments that he owns, right? And one of them is in pristine edition, and that's where we're staying. And the other one is completely destroyed, and he's going to file a claim and try to get us to pay money for the destroyed one. It feels like a fairly standard scam for people to do, like submit a claim, claiming that I damaged things and require me to give money. And I feel like that's what the other person was, in terms of saying, like, the other person destroyed stuff. He was sort of setting the precedent that there was destroyed things going on, right? So anyway, we arrive at the new place, and the old one that I booked was on the 1st floor, because my wife wasn't going to be able to go up and downstairs. This new one was on the 5th floor of a building with no elevator. I finally found parking at, like, a destroyed gas station, like 6 or 7 blocks away, and parked there. I get to the apartment. there is weird sticky brown stuff all over the walls and holes punched in the bedroom door. And then he sends us a message and he goes, by the way, the lock to the apartment doesn't work. But I'm sure that the deadbolt will be enough. And I'm just like, we're getting the fuck out of here. So I filed a claim with Airbnb, and they refunded us everything and let us reschedule to a new place. So, someone shat on the wall. I don't think it was shit, but it was gross, sticky brown stuff. So we finally, you know, we're getting a new place, right? I find this new place in like a suburb. I found this new place in a suburb, and it looked perfect. And we're at the end of the grind, so I'll leave you on the cliffhanger. The new place in the suburb was even worse than the shit-stained walls, I'm gonna smash all your stuff apartment. But I'll tell you the story of the suburbs place next time we have a long grind. Because let's see what Desmond's next level up is. That was not a very good level up, but we got Lance Fair. That's worth it. I talked previously about, like, the horrible Airbnb that was probably a scam. And at the end of the story, I was like, you know, Airbnb, the company, helped us out a bunch by getting us a new place. I found this, nice little, like, basement apartment in, like, a suburb. And it's run by the family. The one thing that they say in it is, like, you know, we do technically live above the basement apartment, so sometimes you can hear like footsteps and stuff. And I'm like, that's fine, you know, like that's obviously less than ideal, but for the circumstances and for our prices and whatnot, like it's what we can expect. So I get there, it seems pretty okay. There's 2 beds, which is good because my wife needed a separate bed for me to recover from surgery. And I'm looking around and testing things because I'm paranoid from the previous Airbnb. And one of the beds is just completely destroyed. Like, one of the legs of the beds is just completely cracked. And I'm like, oh, if I were to, like, lay down on this at all, the bed would collapse, and then it would look like I broke it. So I took some pictures, I called him down, I told him about the bed being an issue, and he's like, oh, you know, well, you don't need more than 1 bed. And I'm like, well, I do, actually, because my wife is going to be out of the hospital in a few days, and she needs her own bed for recovery purposes. And he's like, no, you can just make do with just the 1. And I'm like, no, we actually can't, and it's what was advertised on the listing. So we do a little bit back and forth. He finally agrees to get, like, to replace it. And it seems fine, but then I look on the listing, and there are 2 negative reviews that mention, him having a broken bed and trying to charge them for it. So I'm like, oh, this guy's, like, pulled this before and claimed that people have broken the bed before. So already on my radar, I'm like, okay, this guy, not exactly on the up and up. That noise issue that he mentioned about how you might be able to hear our footsteps because it's technically shared. I believe what he meant is that my family and I will be screaming at all hours of the day, including the quiet hours that he has listed as, like, anytime from 9 o'clock later is quiet hours. You can't do anything that would cause noise. Just him and his wife screaming at each other, their child screaming at all hours and whatnot. So about a week into my wife's recovery, we're like, enough is enough. This is just not sustainable. This is not a healthy environment for recovery. This is not what was advertised. And so we start trying to do, like, a claim through Airbnb. And they say, like, okay, this is clearly, you know, not what you signed up for. if you check out early, we will refund you everything for the days you're not there and 30% of the days you were there, because it doesn't match the listing. I'm like, awesome, perfect. Oh no, first they're like, you need to provide us recordings. And so I provided the recordings, and they were like, yep, that's screaming. Like, that is screaming. According to our policy, we're gonna offer you this stuff. So then, we pack all of our stuff up, we get ready to check out, and as we're leaving, I get a message from Airbnb that's like, by the way, we're not actually gonna refund any of the stuff now that you've canceled. And the reason we're not doing that is because the host told you that there would be footsteps. Therefore, you should have been prepared for all types of noise. Okay, so what happened after... So they had already, like, told us, hey, you're gonna be getting this refund, which we altered our plans for. Like, we checked out early, we went home, we altered my wife's, like, recovery plan for, and I have it in messages with them. I'm like, hey, you know, your representative told us that we would be getting this refund, which altered our travel plans. You need to honor this thing that we altered our plans because you, said it would be the case. And they start claiming, like, nobody at our thing ever told you that. So I sent them screenshots of the chat, and then they started deleting the chat messages because all of the communication takes place on the app. All the communication with the support takes place on the map. So they started deleting the messages in their app, like just the full chat logs and everything. And I'm like, I have these screenshots, but they were clearly, like, they realized that they had fucked up by, I don't know if they, like, over-promised something or they just didn't want to give us a refund for 2 stays in a row because we had that first, like, absolute scam beforehand. And mind you, like, the bed and the noise were not the only problems with this Airbnb. They didn't give us a trash can, for example, and we were there for a month was our stay time, and it's like, you expect us not to have a trash can? There was a leak coming from their, like, water closet the whole time. So there was a lot of issues. This is not a healing tile. Okay. So we have 63 attacks we have 63. Actually, will this be enough to just rank? Yeah, it will. Okay. Perfect. 63 turns. Let's go. Okay. So my results are on the cusp of brilliance. Let us finally begin the experiment. Michael is so epic. Okay. So Airbnb has been, like, purging all the logs and whatnot, right? So I am getting into, like, back and forth with them via their messaging app. Every time that I message them, they give me an answer and then delete the chat log, because you have to open up a new chat log with them in order to, you have to open up a new chat log with them in order to communicate with them at all whatsoever. And I will send one message, I'll get a reply, and then they'll send a message and they'll say, like, you already have a message app open with us, so we're gonna go ahead and delete this. But we don't have any messages open with them because they've been deleting all of them. And so I'm getting into, like, a huge back and forth with them with, like, look, you told us we would be getting this refund. We altered our travel plans as a result of you telling us that this would go along with your policy. You need to honor it, because I ended up driving back home at, like, I think we left at, like, 6 at night. We left at, like, 6 at night, and I had to, like, go through an entire 12-pack of Mountain Dew just to stay awake. But the reason that we left so quickly is, as soon as we filed a claim with Airbnb about the noise, our host started threatening us. Or no, we didn't even initially send a complaint through Airbnb. We sent the message to him like, hey, can you please stop shouting at each other? we are currently trying to like rest off of migraines. And he sent us threats in the Airbnb app saying like, this is not my fault, I will show you what happens, in all caps, like this unhinged shit. And all of that is logged with Airbnb, and yet they're claiming that like, so anyway, then he comes down to the basement and just waits, like stands outside of the door to the basement apartment, just waiting there for a solid 10 minutes. We can see his like, I heard him come down the stairs and I can see his feet on the other side of the door, and he's just standing there, just waiting. Like that SpongeBob meme, just standing there menacingly. And so we report all this to Airbnb. We say like, he sent us these threatening messages, there's all this loud noise, and we recorded some of the noise because they told us to record it. Oh, she can use the void cleaver now! Anyway, the end of the story is after, because we're gonna kill with someone other than her now, because she has the, actually, fuck it! S-rank axes on Peggy! S-rank axes on Peggy, let's go, let's go. But to skip ahead to the end of the story, I spend about 2 weeks getting phone calls from them, sending messages to them, trying to get this whole thing resolved. And at the end, they say that they are not going to issue the refund that they promised us because the issue began more than 24 hours before we left. So that's that story. Our fucking Airbnb horror stories. I haven't even started my streams of this game, but I'm gonna keep catching up if we do grinds like this. You don't understand, it's actually gonna be very important to get S-rank axes on Peggy. She's actually only, what is that, 21 combats away from A?